Wisconsin is holding its elections today thanks to a partisan Supreme Court ruling. And I'm not talking about the state Supreme Court. I'm talking about our Supreme Court weighing in and essentially undermining our democratic process while rigging the election in the favor of Republicans in the state. So not only were Wisconsin voters forced to go to the polls today, despite the ongoing pandemic that has claimed the lives of more than 12,000 Americans at this point, the Supreme Court ruled that absentee ballots will not receive an extension. This is what Democrats wanted in the very least. And the Supreme Court, in a partisan ruling, said, no, you can't even get an extension for absentee ballots. Democrats hope to defend a lower court order that allowed absentee ballots to be counted so long as they arrived at the designated polling place by April 13th, an extension granted by a judge to account for the brewing coronavirus-sparked chaos on Election Day, April 7th. Republicans, though, successfully asked the court to require these ballots to be postmarked by April 7th. All 5 of the court's Republicans voted for the Republican Party's position. All 4 of the court's Democrats voted for the Democratic Party's position. And so how did this get to the Supreme Court in the first place? Well, look, tens of thousands of voters in Wisconsin haven't even received their absentee ballots yet. They have not received their absentee ballots yet. They're expected to receive them after today, after Election Day. And so Judge William Conley ordered the deadline for receiving the ballots to be extended to 4 p.m. on April 13th. In response to the order, the Republican Party asked the Supreme Court to modify Conley's decision to require all ballots to be postmarked by April 7th, or they will not be counted. The Supreme Court's Republican majority granted the GOP this very specific request.
So, look, there's this mythology that the Supreme Court, as Chief Justice Roberts said in his confirmation hearings, just calls balls and strikes. We're not partisan. We don't care about politics. Politics, what name so? Republican Party, Democratic Party, I don't know. Ooh, can't tell. And then conveniently, hey, look at that. The 4 Democrats vote with the Democratic Party and the 5 Republicans vote with the Republican Party. What an unbelievable coincidence for the 100th time in a row. So who's right, who's wrong here? Well, look, Republicans look to block votes. That's what they do. If you're a fair and objective reporter, you call out the situation for what it is. So in this case, let's look at the numbers. So normally in an election like this, Wisconsin gets about 250,000 mail-in ballots. Everybody else goes to the polls. Very, very normal. In this election, because of coronavirus, they have asked for 1.2 million ballots instead of 250,000, because everybody wants to write it in and send it in, mail it in, right? Because they don't want to go and interact with other people. They want to do social distancing. They want to be safe. Makes sense. The problem is a lot of the ballots haven't even been received yet. Anna told you about that. But we know for a fact that at least 12,000 were still not mailed out on Sunday. So the election is on Tuesday, which is today. So very likely thousands upon thousands of people will not even receive their ballots and will have no chance to vote unless they want to go risk their lives. And if you're older, and a lot of the voters are older, it's an even greater risk to your life. So
no, this is insanity, because if people are defiant and they want their vote to matter, they're going to show up and they're literally going to risk their lives. OK, by the way, because of the fact that so many poll workers decided that they would not show up because they didn't want to risk their own lives, a number of polling places were shut down. And so the remaining polling places that were open now have way more individuals voting than is considered normal. And so you see these videos with lines, lines out the door, wrapping around entire blocks because people are unable to vote in their normal polling place. This is crazy. This doesn't just disenfranchise the 12,000 individuals who didn't even receive their absentee ballots yet. It disenfranchises pretty much every voter who hasn't been able to turn in an absentee ballot yet, because it's increasingly difficult to even cast a ballot in person while you're simultaneously risking your life.
So the video we just showed you is from Waukesha County, and that's actually relevant to this story in a couple of different ways. So why don't the Republicans want more people to vote? Well, first of all, just as a general matter, studies have shown that the more people who vote, the higher the chances are that the Democrats win. So Republicans love suppressing votes. And I get it if you don't care about democracy, you don't care about what's fair or right or ethical, and all you care about is winning and raw power. If you're a Republican, according to the studies, you should try to limit Black people, young people, Latinos, women, et cetera, from voting. So that's what they do. And so it is deeply unethical.
Cenk, you're absolutely right. I want to provide evidence of that, because if you can remember, just last week, Trump said the quiet parts out loud again. He admitted that if Democrats succeeded in accomplishing the election reforms that they demanded in the stimulus package, then Republicans would have a tough time. Don't believe me? Here was what he said. Here's the actual video.
I will tell you this. If you look at before and after, the things they had in there were crazy. They had things, levels of voting that if you ever agreed to it, you'd never have a Republican elected in this country again. They had things in there about, election days and what you do and all sorts of clawbacks. And they had things that were just totally crazy.
Yeah, he says it. He says if you allow that level of voting, Republicans would never win another election. I mean, you don't have to trust us. Trump just said it. You heard it with your own ears. So now back to Waukesha County. So one, you have that general trend that everybody's familiar with. Secondly, in this particular case, Waukesha is heavily Republican-leaning county, and the Republicans already know that 56% of that county already mailed in their ballots, whereas heavily Democratic-leaning Milwaukee, only 38% already mailed in their ballots. So they know if they freeze things right now, the Republicans have a massive unfair advantage. And so they're like, yeah, freeze it. Oh, more Democrats don't get to vote. They're like, where's the question? Of course we don't want them voting. So they don't care about that at all. Their job is they're trying to just take the power away from Democrats. And so that's terrible, but I get the logic of it. Then you go over to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be the judges that fairly rule on these things. And they go, yeah, I don't care about people voting. The law, rules, what's fair, who cares? The Republicans have an advantage. Block the vote. And they all did it, all five of them. The so-called, moderate Republicans on the court, like Roberts? Hilarious. Of course not. One last thing about the disparities. In Milwaukee, normally they have 180 polling stations. They only have 5 open today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that means they're going to be jam-packed. People aren't going to be able to vote. They're going to wait in lines forever. So you're going to have less Democrats voting. And so if you care about people voting, you'd say, that's crazy. How could you only have 5 in Milwaukee? But if you don't want people to vote, which is the Republican Party, you're thinking this is as good as it gets. And Anna, I'm sorry, one more thing. Democrats care if their voters die. Republicans told them, coronavirus, not that big a deal. Just go out there and vote. Who cares? My power. Me. My power. You go die. It's your problem, not my problem. Democrats have a conscience, and it's a big disadvantage in this case.
I mean, Democrats did insist on continuing some of the primary elections a little late in the game, including the primaries that took place in like Florida and stuff. And so they were really playing with fire there because people, I'm sure, went out there and contracted the virus. But I do want to tell you what's at stake in Wisconsin, because it's not just about the primary election. So, of course, the presidential primaries, they're going to be voting on that. But also there's a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, 3 seats on the Wisconsin Court of Appeals, over 100 other judgeships in the state, and over 500 school board seats. So this is a serious issue because there's a lot at stake. And to know that all these voters have been disenfranchised with the helping hand of the Supreme Court is just devastating. It shows that we have a complete breakdown in our system.
And in fact, the reason they want those judges so badly in the Wisconsin courts to be right-wing is because they're going to do another voter purge, which is not only important for the Republicans in Wisconsin, but they think it could help them win the national presidential election. That is why all the Republicans, including the 5 on the Supreme Court, are saying, yeah, let's get that Republicans elected into the Wisconsin courts, because they got to do another voter purge. And if you have progressive judges, they won't allow you to just unfairly purge voters. So that's all on the line tonight.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.